Very good morning to you once again. If you're just joining us, let's bring you up to speed with the news just in. On the side of your screen, the former president, Jacob Zuma, now expected to meet the ANC's top six virtually. This coming amid Zuma's battle with the State Capture Commission of Inquiry and criminal charges against the party's Secretary General, Magashule. Let's get you the latest now from our senior politics reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo, who's outside Luthuli House. Ziyanda, was this made aware to the top six of the ANC that the former president is now going to be meeting with them virtually? Because before then, streets were being closed around Luthuli House in order to make way for the convoy of vehicles that would go inside Luthuli House. What happened?
That's right, Stoli, and up until about 20 minutes ago, the Pixley Sember Street behind me was actually cordoned off, and not long ago then we saw the officials who cordoned off the street, where the other police in yellow had also cordoned off the other side of Luthuli House. They started removing the cones and the barriers that they'd set up in preparation for the arrival of the former president, Jacob Zuma, amongst others. Now, it tells you about the relationship that the former president has with the ANC's top six. I mean, we saw, the dogs that usually conduct a sweep of the building. So all preparations and all indications, even those who are here on the ground, when you know who is associated to which particular leader, all indications up until about 20 to 30 minutes ago were that the former president would be here. But then word came in that actually the former president is at his home in Nkandla, and that this meeting will take place virtually. Whether or not the ANC's top six was aware of this before all these security preparations were made is also an indication, Oli, of the kind of relationship and the communication that's taking place between the national office bearers and Zuma.
Papers yesterday, the media reports, quoting the Treasurer General of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, extensively, and he spoke about several postponements because at times they, as the top six, could not all be available, but also the former president having had prior commitments. But what was important, though, from Paul Mashatile in those media reports was that the former president indeed would be meeting with them today, even though there was also mention in the article about the former president not really having the appetite, if you like, to meet the top six. Does that frame the meeting or the context of what this meeting actually takes place under, the kinds of relations, as you continuously point out, the kind of relationship that former President Jacob Zuma has with his party's leadership?
Absolutely, Toli, and I'll take you back then to the fact that Deputy Secretary General Jessie Duarte also went to Nkandla, and it's not clear whether she went there on behalf of the top six or whether she'd gone there in her personal capacity to speak to the former president in Nkandla. And I would go as far as saying that, in fact, the former president was quite clear that he would prefer to have the top six come to him in Nkandla as opposed to him coming to Luthuli House. And from what I've been told by those close to the situation is that there's actually been, a bit of disagreement on the venue for this particular meeting, hence these several postponements. I think the Treasurer General was just being diplomatic, of course, on behalf of the party to say that they couldn't actually, find specific times to meet. But in many aspects, you ask yourself, because the former president has been receiving several guests from different political formations at his Nkandla home, NFP, BLF, the EFF's Julius Malema, to name a few, have been going to Nkandla to visit the former president. And he's been very clear about him not attending the State Capture Commission of Inquiry proceedings. And if you look at the relationship that he has with some of the national office bearers, it's quite clear then that, some of them he wouldn't necessarily agree with what they're trying to convince him to do. And it happens on a day when those court papers, the lawyers of the former president are expected to submit papers in response to those contempt of court proceedings.
Yeah, Ziyanda, if we were to attempt to make this clearer for the viewers, I think it's important for us to talk about the optics around this. If the leadership of the ANC, as led by President Ramaphosa, were to be seen going to Nkandla and passing through the blockade that would probably be manned by the members of the MKMVA, that would give the former president a certain amount of almost power and influence over this leadership. Whereas if he is, if you like, asked to leave Nkandla and come to Johannesburg to Luthuli House, I think that pretty much tells you who's in charge. So I guess this meeting had to take place through a platform that perhaps is slightly more neutral to either party. Isn't that how we should read this?
Absolutely, Toli, and you speaking about the different venues is very significant, hence the continuous postponement of this gathering taking place. If the ANC's top six went to Nkandla, by the way, there are some who believe that the ANC's top six meeting with former President Jacob Zuma shouldn't even be happening from a legal perspective, to say, well, he's already defied the Constitutional Court ruling. The Zondo Commission has actually thrown him a lifeline to say, if you appear before the end of March, we will actually withdraw them the contempt of court proceedings and that impending or looming 2-year imprisonment that they've requested from the Constitutional Court. But again, if the ANC's top six went to Nkandla, it would be a show of force on the part of former President Jacob Zuma, and it would legitimize what he's continuously said through his foundation, that the behavior under the leadership of Chairman Raymond Zondo of the State Capture Commission towards him forms part of a larger political conspiracy, and that he's being targeted. But also, if the former president came here to Luthuli House to actually meet with the ANC's top six, it would also look like a concession on the part of the former president that he is wrong in his collision course with the Constitutional Court.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, thank you very much for that update. Our senior politics reporter live for us outside Luthuli House. Let's take a breather. When we return, I'm sure we'll give you some fresh headlines and also attempt to take you back to the State Capture Commission.